Hello, I'm Amir Netz. I'm a technical fellow at Microsoft and the CTO of Microsoft Fabric. If you don't know Microsoft Fabric, well, you've probably been sleeping under a rock for the last 2.5 years. We have released Fabric just over 2 years ago, and it was all about unifying all the data services that we have at Microsoft, whether they're the operational databases with the SQL database and Cosmos DB, the NoSQL database, the data factory that allows you to do data integration. Analytics covers everything from data warehousing to data engineering to data science, real-time intelligence with the ability to bring live event streams and manage them through event houses and act on them through the activator. Power BI, which is of course the founding father of the entire stack. Copilot as a foundational capability for the entire stack. Governance to a catalog, and of course one lake, the one place where you store all your data for the enterprise. We have released it, and we're incredibly thrilled to share some of the latest figures of the adoptions around the market. The market that really adores Fabric. 35,000 customers are using Fabric today, and we don't count the Power BI guys. These are the people who are just using all the other services that we have in Fabric. Over 90% of the Fortune 500 are using Fabric, and you can learn all about those customers in this URL. Also, the financial results are pretty impressive. Over $2 billion in ARR with 60% year-over-year growth. This is just remarkable for a platform that has been around for just over 2 years. But the world is changing. We are now predicting over 1 billion agents joining the workforce over the next 2 years. And that's really important, because when we say joining the workforce, it means that they're really going to move from being just chatbots or applications on your desktop to real full-fledged employees. And one of the questions we're going to ask ourselves is, how do we make sure that the agents can become as trusted and as productive as your human employees? And the answer is, well, we have to give them the tool, the knowledge, the understanding, the context that we give to all of our human employees. And when we look at what is this kind of context and knowledge that we give to the human employees, we kind of categorize it into three buckets. We have the notion of the people. Every employee works in a team. We need every employee to understand their teammates, to understand how the organization works, to understand their manager. That's one element that we expect every employee to know. The other thing is that every organization works differently. Every organization has its own standard operating procedure, its own institutional knowledge, its own way of doing things. And we need every employee to know that as well. Lastly, we need every employee to know what is going on right now in the business. What orders are we working on? What support cases we need to resolve? What is the latest initiative that we need in order to save costs? All of that is the most dynamic part of the context that every employee needs to know. And this set of context is also what we expect our agents to know. And this is why we introduced at Microsoft something called Microsoft IQ, which is made out of Work IQ, Foundry IQ, and Fabric IQ, where Work IQ is all about how the employees work. It's really understanding each individual person, understanding how they work, understanding their preferences, understanding their priorities, understanding even their personality. Then you have Foundry IQ, which is really about curating all the institutional knowledge that you have in the organization. This is really about creating knowledge bases that tells you what it means to be an employee in the organization, what it means to fulfill a specific role in the organization, and how we work, the standard operating procedures, the regulation we have to abide by, and so forth. And lastly, Fabric IQ. This is really about the state of the business. This is really about getting the real-time feed about how the organization is performing right now, what is going on. It's all coming from the operational systems of the organization. When we talk about Fabric, we're really talking about bringing and creating that Fabric IQ. And for this, we've introduced a whole new workload just in the last few months, which is called Fabric IQ. And we're going to talk about how you create Fabric IQ. It's not as trivial as one can imagine. It's actually requires some thought, some work, some planning. And the entire stack is really about creating that IQ, that context for the AI that gives it a full picture of everything that is going on in the organization. I'm going to show you here some of the innovation that we're bringing to build through the framework of the Fabric IQ. And in the framework of the Fabric IQ, we have 4 steps. First, it's all about unifying the data estate. bringing all the data together. Then we're going to process and harmonize the data so it all kind of matches up and fits together. Then we're going to curate semantic knowledge so the AI will understand actually the data. And lastly, we're going to be able to put some AI agents on top of those semantics. So let's go one by one. We start with unifying the data estate. And what does it mean to unify the data estate? In Fabric, we have this one place where we can put all the data. It's called OneLake. It's a single secure foundations for every workload, for every piece of data. It's one place where all the data is stored. All the data is stored in open format. All the data is indexed. All the data is managed. We manage the lineage. We manage the sensitivity labels. We manage the certification of the data. It's one place for all the data, which is just amazing. But the other thing that is really good about OneLake is not just a place to store data. It's a place to bring all the data you already have stored somewhere else. And we know organizations have data everywhere. You have data across multiple clouds. You have data in Azure, in AWS, in GCP. You have data in different databases, in Dataverses, and in SQL databases, in Databricks, and in Snowflake, and in Postgres and Cosmos. You have data everywhere. You have data on premises. You have data in applications. And you want to bring all the data together. And this is really important because data has this terrible, terrible quality of left by itself, it will just silo itself. It will be stored in different containers of different platform, different technologies, and then it just gets sharded and isolated. And it's really hard for humans to understand the entire picture when the data is so sharded. And it's even harder for the AI to understand it because for the AI, when the data is sharded, it's like looking at the world through a broken mirror. It's just hard to understand what's going on. So what OneLake allows you to do is to create a single pane of glass that spans all your data, regardless of where it is. It's the data could be on premises, in every cloud, on all databases, in apps and files, and you can just bring it together with zero ATL, with zero effort, and with zero cost. So we have been constantly working on adding more and more sources of data into OneLake. And just lately, we announced the general availability of SAP and Oracle DB. And we're really, really excited to announce today also that SharePoint and OneDrive shortcuts are generally available in OneLake. In addition, public preview for Dremio, Azure DB for MySQL, and coming soon, Azure Monitor and AWS Glue, which really allows us now to bring the whole observability data estate into OneLake to join with the business data estate. Okay, so now all the data is unified in OneLake. We're ready to go and proceed into processing and harmonizing the data, really making sure that all the data can be work together. The data is consistent. And for this, we have this amazing set of analytical engines, including the data warehousing engine. And here we have an amazing, amazing announcement. And this is the query acceleration in the Fabric data warehouse through GPUs. We are thrilled to announce a limited preview of this amazing feature, which really provides you much faster insight. The queries, you want to see the data, it's just mind-blowing. The queries are coming so much faster. The setup is incredibly simple with one click. And really, let's just jump into it. Let's just see what it means to really have query acceleration. So take a look here, the TPC-8 query performance. And we're going to compare here a couple of competitors, our own Fabric data warehouse that is powered by CPUs as it is shipping today versus the GPU accelerated data warehouse. And you can see that the results are quite staggering. Typically, we like to see improvement in the 10-15% range every year on a data warehouse performance, but we're looking here at an 8x performance improvement. Everything is running 8 times faster on average, and on some of the competitors, even higher. So this is quite incredible, but that's not the end of it. This is the performance when you run one single query at a time. But what happens if you now start load the data warehouse with concurrent load? Well, the performance is not getting any worse. It's actually getting better. Now we're talking about acceleration of 25 times faster when you run 16 queries at a time on top of the data warehousing engine. In fact, it's barely you notice the additional load when you work at this scale. Now, if you want to go even further, you want to stress the data warehouse even more, let's move to 64 concurrent queries running. And now the acceleration is over 100 times faster. This is the power of the GPU-powered Fabric data warehouse. Not only it's faster, the more you load the data warehouse, the more gains you're seeing on the performance. It's just incredible. It is a revolution. It is based on technology that just won the best paper award in the Sigmund conference. It is just incredible. So let's take a look at what it means to actually have a GPU-powered Fabric data warehouse. How does it look like in practice? So let's roll to the video.
I'm a developer building an application on top of Fabric Data Warehouse, and I want to make sure my users get insights instantly, whether they're viewing dashboards or asking questions of an analytics agent. Here we are in Fabric DW. I'm going to go ahead and run a couple of ad hoc queries. At the bottom, I can quickly tell that there's a brand new option called Query Acceleration. It tells me that it's off, but I can navigate to Workspace Settings and under Data Warehousing, find the Query Acceleration option and turn it on. And once it's on, it's applied to every SQL endpoint and every data warehouse in this workspace. Using it is simple. I just hit run, and I can see that my query is being accelerated. Monitoring gives me visibility into what was accelerated and what was not. From this brand new column, I can quickly tell that several queries have already been accelerated. Frequently run queries gives me even more visibility, with a count of the total accelerated runs for a particular query. And when I return to the query editor and click on Query Acceleration, I'm given a bird's eye view of the value this capability is adding for my particular data warehouse. Roughly 89% of the queries were accelerated, which is huge. We're super excited to get this GPU-powered data warehouse into your hands and accelerate insights faster than ever before.
So using the data warehouse is just part of your Fabric application. And when you build your Fabric application, you're going to use many different technology. You're going to use the data warehouse, you're going to use Spark, you're going to use the functions, you're going to use the real-time event stream, you're going to use so many things. And to do that, we really need to move away from manually creating and crafting and curating each artifact manually, and instead move to agent-based development, just like we do vibe coding for code. So with this, we're really, really thrilled to announce the continuation of the work we're doing with Agent Skill for Fabric. Agent Skill for Fabric really allows you to go and use the agents to do the full development in Fabric. Agent Skills give the agents the expertise of how to work with Fabric correctly in an optimized way with the best practices. And we have released the skills in FabCon just 3 months ago that allows you to work with the analytical engines. And now we are incredibly thrilled to announce that now you can expand the set of skills and also have the agent create Power BI reports for you. So really, really exciting new capabilities. And we're going to see a demo here of what it means to really have an AI-powered analytics using the skills.
These days, organizations are moving from manual data preparation to an agent-driven approach. So we're going to use Fabric's brand new Agent Skills repo to essentially provision an entire customer data pipeline from start to finish. Agent Skills accommodate a range of Fabric capabilities. I have skills for several workloads, from real-time intelligence to data warehouse to data engineering. And using them, I can set up an entire medallion architecture from scratch. Let's take a look. I'm starting in the CLI with GitHub Copilot and one simple mission: build me out an ingestion engine, clean my ticket data, and prep me a silver layer. With just one prompt, look at us go. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see my Fabric workspace, which is being populated with a Lakehouse artifact based on that prompt. After that, we'll see a notebook being provisioned as well, with all of the configuration and best practices applied for data engineering thanks to Fabric Agent Skills. The skills are facilitating this for me based on my prompt, and when Copilot is finished, I can get a summary on the left-hand side of the screen of everything that's been done for me, with all the best practices applied. From there, I can move into Fabric to see my solution in action. In my Lakehouse, we can see the silver table that was created for me via CLI. I have all my ticket data ingested in Fabric, and it's been categorized thanks to an agent-driven approach. We can go on to the latest and greatest in Fabric Analytics for further analysis. We're using the most up-to-date runtime, which includes Spark 4.0 and Delta 4.0. And we can run or schedule our notebooks with support for custom live pools. This capability takes the long pool startup times that many customers used to experience when loading in libraries and network security settings from 3 to 5 minutes down to anywhere between 3 to 5 seconds. I'm creating a schedule for these pools here. Basically, I'm saying at a certain time every morning, I want my custom live pool to be pre-warmed with all my configurations so we don't have to wait for those long startup times when I attach compute to my notebooks. Then, I can go ahead and publish the bronze to silver cleaning notebook that was created for me via CLI. I'm hooking up to my compute, and when I start up the session, check this out. We're going to be live in just 5 seconds. Moving to my SQL Analytics endpoint, I can analyze ticket data further using AI functions. Whether you're in a notebook or a data warehouse, working with PySpark or T-SQL, as I am here, these functions bring LLMs into Fabric with no configuration. Drilling into my ticket data, I can use AI functions to categorize it, assign sentiment labels to tickets, or classify those tickets according to custom categories. For instance, whether they're billing related, product related, or something else entirely. Fabric Data Warehouse also integrates with Activator for real-time alerting. I can create a query that will be used to trigger actions anytime data that's associated with a product quality issue, about strange noises for instance, lands in my platform. In these cases, what I want is a trigger to fire so that one of my colleagues can be notified through Teams that there's a new ticket with negative customer sentiment. Using the interface here, I can configure the columns that I'd like the rule to read and then create it. With agent skills for Fabric Analytics, we've gone from prompt engineering to operational intelligence to real-time alerting in minutes.
Okay, so the data has been unified in the data state. It was processed and harmonized using the analytical engine with the help of the agent. And now we're ready for the next step, which is the curation of the semantics. And this is really important. When all the data is in one lake, it still makes it really hard for an AI agent to really understand the meaning of the data. And semantics are really that bridge, to make sure that the AI can understand the meanings and really build that IQ layer into the agentic world. So we have the data in the one lake. It's all there: structured data, unstructured data, real-time data, graph data, everything that you want to have there. On top of that, we are going to layer the semantic models. Semantic models are something that you have already in Power BI. It's a place where you curate all the information about the tables, the relationship, the measures. All of every Power BI report, every dashboard that you have is built on top of semantic model. It really is the bridge between the business concepts to the way the data is stored in one lake. It's really important, and we have a lot of those. 20 million semantic models are used day in, day out in businesses around the world. I think probably about 90% of semantic models in the world are based on Power BI. It has all your business data. It covers all your corporate metrics. It provides access rights to the data with row level security, column level security, everything that you need in there. It's great when you want to have the AI answers questions for you. The semantic models is great. But if you want the AI to move forward and not just handle business intelligence, but also operational intelligence, this is where the ontologies are coming in. And what the ontologies do, they really expand the notion of semantics from just the notion of reporting and analytics into really explaining to how the business works and really providing the AI with understanding of the business processes. And the idea here is if the AI is aware of the business processes, including the real-time feed, including your policies, including your actions, it can really participate in the business process. And we have announced the Fabric ontology just a few months ago, and we have now new integration across Foundry, Copilot Studio, and Agent 365. So the support for the ontologies is expanding, still not GA, still public preview, but becoming bigger and deeper and more capable as we move along toward the GA coming later this year. So what does it mean for us to have an ontology? It really means that we take the entire business and we model it so the AI can understand how it works. And we start by identifying the various entities that are participating in the business. So we have a retail operation. It's all about understanding the relation between suppliers and shipments and inventory and stores. And you really define each one of those entities. You provide each one of those entities with the relationships that they have to the other entities, with the properties and the actions that each entity has. So you have shipments, and you can have the properties like what it called the SKUs that are being shipped, the transit status, and even real-time feeds such as the temperature of the cargoes. The cargo. We even have actions associated with the shipment, like we can pause the inbound, we can maybe request inspection, we can reroute the shipment to a different store. All that is part of the model that you have in the ontology. And also in the ontology, you really explain your business goals, the objectives, how you handle risk and compliance, your profitability goals, the customer satisfaction, all the policy that you really drive your business. All that is part of that ontology. Now, we have shipped that ontology. It's getting a lot of excitement, still under development, but boy, it is capable. But we can take it even a step further, because what we try to model with ontology is not only what happened, which we have coming from OneLake, which holds all the history of all the transactions from all the systems of record, not only what's happening, which is coming from the real-time intelligence event streams, that is giving us a real time all the reads from the various telemetry, from this IoT system, from the sensors, everything that we have. But we also can now analyze what should happen. Have the agent, the ontology, really represents the organization goals moving forward, the great details. And this is where Fabric planning is coming into play. Planning in Fabric is a workload that we just announced 3 months ago in a public preview, and we are incredibly excited to share that it is now generally available. It is going to be rolling out in the next couple of weeks into the rest of the regions. So really, I think it's one of the most exciting announcements we have here, general availability of Fabric, planning in Fabric. And if you are not familiar with it, you should really give it a try. It really is the best enterprise planning tool on the planet. It's end-to-end enterprise plan that allows you to model budget, forecast, scenarios, targets. It's incredibly mature. It has all the bells and whistles that you need, and it really is the source of truth of what should happen in the future. And it's all fully integrated into Fabric, in both in the experience, in the security model, in the OneLake integration, end-to-end, everything that you need to really have a fully Fabric native planning module. And I think it's best if we just can see a demo of how this looks like.
Planning in Fabric makes it easy for teams to build out forecasts, budgets, and more directly from your workspace. I can create a new revenue plan with the same ease as any other artifact, and then instantly start working from data that lives in OneLake. If I want to build out a 2026 plan, I'll start with my 2025 data, which lives in a semantic model in the OneLake catalog. I can pull it in and look at those numbers, which break down in the canvas both by product category on the left and by quarterly revenue up top. In this scenario, I'm a sales lead at a beverage company, and I'm trying to build out 2026 numbers based on those 2025 numbers. So I can make copies, hide the 2025 data, and start playing around in this interface with what I hope for the year ahead. This view makes it easy to have confidence in estimates that we apply to categories. If we assign a growth rate to one category, we know it's going to trickle down through the underlying brands, it's going to get distributed proportionally across different quarters, and it's going to roll up to the overall plan figure at the top left. This way, everything stays in sync. It's interactive, the numbers are connected, and we have confidence as we start gaming out hypotheticals about what the year will look like. When we're happy with certain numbers, we can lock them in place. Then, changes that we make to the overall figure get distributed only to open categories, not to categories that we've locked already. We can always tag in team members for review and continue working with the rest of our colleagues. When you build out a financial plan, it's sensible to have different scenarios in your back pocket. A best case, a worst case, and so forth. This interface also makes that process simple. I can toggle between a best case scenario and the base case that we've previously defined. Sliders in the interface make it simple to play with numbers and capture changes with respect to the base case. Just a few clicks and it's all locked and captured. I can always switch from this tabular view into a tree-based view that makes everything even more explicit and visually friendly. How the numbers break down from top to bottom, but also how they add up from bottom to top. I get a lot of customization and collaboration with this experience, the same way I do with other Fabric capabilities. So in the interface, I can add my own columns to the plan. I can customize rules and security preferences that govern things like who can comment, who can add data, who can build in scenarios, and on and on. And there's also a handy auditing view built in, so I know who has touched what and when. This is crucial when you're dealing with sensitive financials and you need to make sure nothing strange is going on. When I'm done with my plan, I have write-back capabilities built in, so I can connect to a Fabric SQL database. We started with the semantic model, and we're ending with the SQL table. This is all integrated with OneLake. There's no gap between the planning software and the data. It lives in one place, and we now have a table corresponding to the plan we've just built. In Fabric, this plan can also be worked into our ontology. That way, the model of the business operations takes into account not just analytics data from the past and streaming signals from the present, but also a sense of where we're going. Planning in Fabric captures that future-looking angle for every employee and every agent.
Okay, so we have now the data unified in OneLake. We also have it harmonized using the analytical engines like the data warehouse with the GPU acceleration. We also curated the semantics using the semantic models and the ontologies and added the planning component that allows us to have forward-looking view into the future. We're ready to empower the AI agents. That's the last step in our journey for the full IQ. What does it mean for us to empower AI agents? It means that the agents can now build applications on top of the semantics and the data that we have in Fabric, on top of the entire data estate. And we're really, really excited to introduce in public preview for the first time apps in Fabric. It allows you to create production-grade agentic apps that are running on top of your governed data estate. It is providing you with one managed backend that provides all the services that your application needs. And we're talking about analytic application. We're talking about line of business application. It covers the functions. It covers the storage. It covers the security and authentications. And it is designed from the ground up to be secured. It's a great environment to run vibe-coded applications. And it's built on top of what we call the Rayfin SDK. It's a type-safe, decorated-based code optimizer for agentic development. And the best thing we can do here is really see it in action. So what does it mean to build applications in Fabric using agents, talking about operation applications? Let's run the video.
The Rayfin SDK makes it easy to build out enterprise-ready apps in Fabric in just a few minutes. Agentic development from the IDE, which you see here, is increasingly common, but there still tends to be a bottleneck, the backend. Setting up a database or wiring up auth is where vibe coding projects stall, and where Rayfin comes in. What you're seeing here is the result of a single command from the Rayfin CLI. I've picked a blank app template and given it a name, and now Rayfin is setting up the whole project for me. Behind the scenes, Fabric will provision the foundational resources, from a dedicated app artifact to a linked SQL database to a static hosting URL. The app will be live in seconds with my entire backend set up and scaffolded. Then I can turn to GitHub Copilot to build out the interface of my dreams. I'll describe what I want in natural language, a delivery app with certain custom parameters, and Copilot will generate the data schema, the UI components, the pages, and the flows all for me, wired up in code I can inspect and edit. The result is a fully functional delivery app in Fabric, which I'm seeing here. Drivers can log deliveries with photos, and customers can review orders on tablets and sign to confirm receipt. The whole exchange is captured end to end. And because Fabric provides the backend, there's no separation between the app I just built and the enterprise platform where operational data lands. In my governed workspace, I can see that app artifact alongside its linked Fabric SQL database. Here's the data from that transaction starting to flow straight in. And in the OneLake catalog, my new app sits right alongside every other governed asset across the business. Instead of a proof of concept or a prototype, I get an enterprise-ready app built in minutes, something my team can use on day one, thanks to Rayfin and apps in Fabric.
So with Rayfin, you can now do vibe coding directly in Fabric, building those operational applications, but it doesn't have to stop with operational applications. We talked about the semantic models as a great way to curate the semantics that you have in OneLake, and they're also the basis for building everything you have in Power BI. But what if you want to build an application that has embedded analytics in it? Well, you can still use the Power BI reports, but if you want to have really the full freedom of custom code, web application that shows dashboards that show report, this is where the next phase of those agentic applications coming into Fabric. And now you can build those custom web pages that allows you to track data based on the semantic models. I'd like to show you this agent-driven BI apps extending those Rayfin-based applications that we've seen before. So let's take a look at those.
Thanks to the Rayfin SDK, my team just built a delivery app that lands real operational data in a Fabric SQL database, records of every drop-off and every customer signature. That transaction data ends up in the same workspace as the analytical data my team uses to run the business, including a semantic model I want to put to work. In addition to Power BI reports, I can now build custom data apps using the same Rayfin SDK that sped up my delivery app development. I'm getting started with a new app item directly in Fabric. I'll give my data app a name, and then I can choose a specific template for analysis and visualization. The app shell lays out all the next steps, including a setup prompt I can hand straight to GitHub Copilot. In VS Code, Copilot uses the Rayfin SDK to scaffold my project, wiring up auth and connecting to the assets in our governed Fabric workspace. The agent can also reach for a Power BI skill that lets it generate interactive visuals directly against my semantic models, without rebuilding the foundation my analytics team maintains. With that scaffolding ready, I can get more specific. I want to connect our customer satisfaction semantic model to the new delivery data, creating an exec view with monthly CSAT trends, a regional breakdown, and a delivery impact correlation. Copilot generates the visuals, the data joins, and more. Everything gets wired in, ready to render against live data. And when that's done, I get a live link of what's been pushed to Fabric. Back in my workspace, here's the result. An interactive dashboard pulling from both my new delivery data and the existing semantic model. It's all here. Current CSAT, on-time delivery, complaint rate, that's the full arc of what the Rayfin SDK unlocks. Operational and analytical apps in Fabric, built side by side, on the same governed foundation my team trusts.
Okay, so this is really exciting. Really, how you can build complete applications, operations, analytics, dashboarding, all together using the agent. But if you want to build your own agent, well, this is where the operations agents is coming into play. And we are really excited that the operations agents are now generally available. And what are those operations agents? These are agents that are not just answering questions. We're all used to those chatbots that you can ask questions, give you answer. But operations agents are different. They're virtual team members that monitor signals and react autonomously in the background. They don't wait for you to ask them questions. They're constantly awake, constantly looking at what's going on and taking actions. And it's all based on natural language setup. You don't need to be a coder to create this operation agent. You just configure everything you need using natural language. And we now have some new capabilities as we come to the general availability, including chat-based authoring, root cause analysis, and Microsoft Teams integration. So let's take a look at the operations agent.
In Fabric, creating a new operations agent takes just a few steps, as with any other item. Here, I'm setting up an agent to monitor customer churn. I want it to watch my marketing signals 24/7 and help me retain customers over time. The setup experience opens immediately, and we can see what's happening on two sides of the screen. On the left, I'll provide inputs to define the agent, and on the right, the agent's playbook will take shape in real time as I go. I start by defining some goals, as I would while onboarding any new team member. In plain natural language, I'm telling this agent to help retain customers and reduce churn for the business. From there, I can add more explicit instructions, explaining what churn actually means and outlining the kinds of actions the agent should consider taking when it identifies a customer at risk. All of this is easy to provide conversationally, in natural language. But the real power comes in when I connect the agent to my operations ontology. I can select that ontology with a few clicks, and immediately the agent gets access to a common semantic context layer across the business. It can inherit existing actions or I can define custom actions. Here, I'm going to add a new action that sends promotional codes to customers at risk of churning. I'll provide a couple parameters, the customer ID, the discount amount, and just like that, I've armed the agent with a new tool to reach for when it identifies a possible churn risk. So on the left-hand side of the screen, I now should have everything I need wired up: goals, instructions, knowledge, actions. I'll save my work and generate the agent's playbook. This playbook represents the agent's working understanding of the business, of the system, and of the data. And most important, it shows what the agent is actually going to do with all that context. With the playbook generated, we can see on the right-hand side of the screen that the agent is surfacing business terms it's picked up along the way, like customer activity, and the different properties associated with those terms. The playbook lays out the rules clearly. These are the conditions the agent is watching for, and the actions the agent can take when the conditions are met. Things look good to start, so I'll put the agent to work. You can think of the agent as a virtual colleague. It's running in our working channels alongside the rest of the operations team. Switching over to Teams, I see that the agent is already at work. As soon as it spots an issue, it posts a message to the channel, and I can pull up all the context using Show Details. Here, I see the underlying data points the agent considered in identifying churn, including the fact that in this case, the triggering event was an add to cart action. Now, that's not really a strong indicator of churn on its own, so I can head back to the agent configuration and tweak the instructions. I'm helping the agent learn more about our business and our context so that going forward it can perform better. A bit later, back in Teams, the agent has alerted us to a new opportunity based on my evolving instructions. This time, the trigger is an abandoned cart, which is a much more reasonable signal for sending out a promo code. The agent shows me the action it wants to take, it lays out the relevant properties, and with a click, I can confirm. Just like that, I've not only created the agent and gotten it running, I've also watched the agent learn to identify a real opportunity and take action on my behalf so that it can operate more autonomously at scale in the future. Everyone loves a promo code, and we can see how the agent helped close the loop for a particular customer here, streamlining our business operations on behalf of the team.
So we are here at the end of the journey. We unified all the data estate into one lake. We processed and harmonized the data using the engines. We curated the semantic knowledge using the semantic models and the ontologies. And then we empowered the AI agents to build applications, to create operational agents. Lots and lots of innovations. It's all powered by Fabric IQ. And when you have Fabric IQ, you really empower both the agent and the employee. And not just one agent. In fact, when you curate Fabric IQ and Microsoft IQ, you really empower a whole range of agents because you could have shared foundation of knowledge and semantics that can span many different agents that perform many different roles. And with this, we really have come to the end of the journey. We took a look at all the innovations that we have across Fabric for Build. Really cannot wait for you to try them out and get excited about them as I have. Thank you so much and have a great conference.